I'm glad you picked him. He's one of my favorites.
Thanks
today.
a lot, Hip. My day is definitely ruined. I'll be up real late tonight.
Yeah.
Drawing in sketchbooks and crying.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the tattoo community and beyond. Hip here. So today's episode is pretty fucking cool. It was Mr. Carlton's idea, and each of us picked 3 artists that inspired us. None of us knew who the artists were, and it was pretty cool. So there's that and much, much more on this episode of the Tattoo Guardians podcast. Stay tuned.
Hey everyone, Joshua here, and welcome to another episode of the Tattoo Guardians podcast. I'm here with my family, Matt and Hip. We are all here today, excited to be back. I'm actually super excited to be here because we are going to talk about something that I've been wanting to do for a while, and that is we all kind of chose 3 tattoos that keep us up at night. 3 tattoo artists that really kind of like, you know, make us work harder every day. So we're going to talk about that. Let's go.
I'm excited to see who keeps a man like Joshua Carlton up at night. You know?
Right. Yeah, so nobody knows who's chosen what, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, this is a great idea that Josh brought up to us, I think, weeks ago. Like, man, who's inspired you guys? And, of course, we all know the list is long, and we put it upon ourselves. Can we just pick 3? Which has been real tough.
That was tough.
Yeah, and I had said before we started recording that we could do an entire podcast on one artist out of and not even knowing your guys' 3.
Yeah. Well, I just want to let you guys know right now before we get started, if I'm on your list, we can just pick somebody else. I appreciate it. No. Okay, cool. Well, and we've got our big brother Mike doing the beats for us in the background like he always does, recording, mixing, mastering. Man, he's like
the mystery
such a
man.
blessing.
Makes magic happen.
That's right. And for all of you listeners right now, 1, thank you for listening. 2, in case you didn't know, you can also view this on YouTube. And tonight's one would be real cool for you to check out because we're going to put some visuals up, and actually Mike's going to put up the tattoos we've selected that we're going to break down and talk about. So thank you for listening. Definitely check this one out on YouTube as well.
Yeah, and don't forget to hit the like button.
Okay.
Yeah, and for all you listeners out there as well, I'd love to hear like what are some artists that inspire you.
Man.
You know, so make sure you leave that in the comments or message us. You know, who keeps you up at night.
Yeah,
man. Do you guys ever like kick it and talk to another fellow artist or tattooer, and they tell you like, "Yo, check this dude out," and you're just kind of like, "I think I follow him," and you get turned on to him, and it's like, "I totally don't," and then now that leads him down a rabbit hole of like, 30,000 other artists that are in the same county as this one person. Dude, it's overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah.
Instagram changed the game, you know what I mean? Like we used to look at these magazines and we'd be inspired, but now it's like, I mean, you can't like every day I notice somebody new, you know what I mean? And it's like, who's this? Who the fuck is this kid?
Man.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, it's just insane to me. And like, I'll be tattooing somebody and I've noticed, you know, tastes are different because I'll be tattooing another tattoo artist and I'll bring up somebody that I'm super into, and you can tell that they're into it, but they're like, yeah, that's cool. Yep. You're cooler. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, thanks, that's awesome of you, but man, are you fucking looking at this stuff? You know?
Right.
But it's subjective. You know, they're into your work. They came to you to get a Matt Clemmer piece. So when you're turning them on to, you know, somebody overseas or whatever, they appreciate it, but they tracked you down already. And that's pretty cool too, right?
It is.
Man, and see, I don't even think I've allowed myself to even think that. Just, I don't know, maybe lack of worth or whatever, but that's kind of fun, and it's almost like an epiphany right now to think that there's some dude somewhere not near me that is like having a conversation. It could be very well showing them my work, like, have you seen this dude's work?
Right.
That's fucking mind-blowing.
Yeah. Well, and it happened a little bit earlier. There's a dude, we were at the studio earlier with our brother Chris Powell. Dude flew in from LA to get tattooed here in Dayton, Ohio today, but he didn't know about mix-ups and you know, meshing styles, and so in giving him a brief education on that, We showed him Yogi Barrett's Instagram and Hip's Instagram, two guys that I believe are doing mix-ups well. Right. And even in that moment, he appreciated Yogi shit, but he was like real impressed with Hip's, which was cool.
Yeah, I had to leave the room when he was doing that.
He did. He walked outside. Yeah. Yeah, it was good. Well, cool, Mr. Mike. Are you ready, brother, to start this? And this is going to be a surprise. We don't know who he's posting up first, or
actually, let's not even know who's going first. Let him pull one up
for one of us. Let's call it.
Yeah,
okay. We don't know. Mike, you got the reins, brother. Put me last.
I think for me, this type of stuff is just like always wanting to figure out like how the hell they did what they do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
that's definitely mine, Joshua here. So we'll start with this. So this tattoo is one of my all-time favorite tattoos by an artist that you've heard me talk about before named Dimitri Samohin. I believe it's pronounced not just Samohin. I think it's like Samohin. I could be wrong. That's how I say it. But this tattoo actually was available on a DVD. Like for a very limited time, Dimitri made a DVD where you could watch him do it. There was no sound at all, no talking. It was just a silent video of him tattooing for 8 hours.
Wow.
And I got lucky and was able to get it for a fair price, but I would have paid, honestly, I would have paid in the thousands for this.
Yeah.
At the time of this in my career, probably 2013 maybe, I'm guessing. It was everything to me. I'd never seen a tattoo that looked like a painting. You know what I mean? And this just looked so much like a painting to me. The bird in this picture is actually healed. And so the African portrait, at the time, I hadn't really seen tattoos that were like you couldn't tell what was fresh and what was healed. It just held up so well. And for those frequent listeners, you might remember me talking about Dimitri blowing my mind that he does everything with round shaders. So this is the perfect example. This entire tattoo is wash lined with a single needle and whatever the color is that it's going to be, very lightly, Yeah. Which I've never done. Well, I guess I've done a little bit of it, but I mainly just kind of go in and start shading. So that was new territory for me. And a 7-round shader and a 3-round shader. No magnums whatsoever. I've seen pictures of the tattoo healed many years later, and it looks pretty much exactly like this. So this is, speaking of keeping me up, this is a video that I shit you not, I treated it like it was a bar of gold. It came as a 4-set DVD, and I would keep it by my computer. It was never allowed to leave my computer desk because I was terrified of losing it. Right. And I watched it. No shit, I've probably seen it 100 times. Just trying my hardest to understand how, why, what's he doing different. And I wish that you could see some of the in progress, because until it looks good, it looks really weird.
Okay.
It's like it looks very little pieces of color everywhere that don't really make a lot of sense, and you have to really know. I think Dimitri really showed what a master craftsman he is to be able to put this together like this. You know what I mean? Wow. Are you guys familiar with this tattoo? Had you seen it before?
I have, but I wasn't aware of how old it is.
I could be wrong. It could be more like 2015, but I think we're getting pretty close at least.
But I feel like I saw like you do your own African portrait.
Definitely heavily
before this.
Yes. I've always been drawn to that. To me, that's just beautiful culture. It's beautiful artwork.
Yeah.
I've always been really drawn to it, so that's likely why I was so drawn to this. Obviously we have similar but different styles. I think for me, a lot of the pictures you're going to see me show tonight, it's a little more of a technical ability than an artistic ability.
Okay.
I've always felt really confident in my art. My father was an incredible artist, and it's something that came fairly natural to me. I'm not saying by any means that I'm like the greatest, but the art side of it always seems a little more natural to me. The first several years of my career, I could do a tattoo that artistically was beautiful, but tattooed pretty good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I've always lost sleep over how can I marry those two? How can I make it to where the art is what I'm doing, but I'm tattooing it very proficiently? And I feel like Dimitri came out of nowhere. Nobody had ever heard of him. Like he just showed up out of nowhere.
Wow.
With all these amazing tattoos. And usually when somebody posts a healed tattoo, they brag about it. This is healed. Well, come to find out, he'd posted, 30, 40 tattoos that were blowing people's minds, and they were all fucking healed. You know what I mean? They were. He didn't even say. He wasn't like bragging that they were healed. This round shader thing he was doing was some sort of new magic, and I still never feel like I mastered it. I definitely use round shaders way, way more than I ever thought I would because I was kind of known for Magnum work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's a look that he's achieving that I just felt like was unachievable for me at the time. And so, this is a great example of something that absolutely keeps me up at night. It's kind of weird. I haven't looked at it in a while, so it's like very nostalgic right now.
Okay.
So I'm looking at, and this ain't the same one. It's the same tattoo, but it's not the same picture. And it says, healed tattoo, 3 years, no retouch. And he posted that in 2014 on October 3rd. So this motherfucker was 2011.
Yeah, so it was even earlier. Yeah, I mean, how ahead of the game was this guy?
Dude, this is, okay. So, I use round shaders, pretty much with every tattoo, but I'm always afraid like that background, it's just smooth and it's like not beat up, and I'm like, I don't understand how you get that mag look with a round shader.
Exactly, and that's what blew my mind because when you got the DVDs, in hand with pencil, he had written like single 7-round shader, 3-round shader, and I'm like, no, that's not. Of course you used a Magnum. So it's mind blowing because, like, look at the blends. Look at the blends in the face and the neck and even that blue. Like, do you notice on the right side there's like a little bit of a cloud kind of up there? It's like, I mean, it still almost seems impossible if I didn't watch him do it. You know what I mean? It's one of those things when you tell people, everybody goes, what? But do you notice when you outline, like, say, a tribal tattoo, no matter how black you fill in that middle, it's the lines always show up. So Dimitri was like, well, fuck it. Do it all with rounds. And it's like, oh, it's so simple but so genius. I'm guessing that Dimitri may have started out as a colored pencil artist, right? I could see that. It's like he just was like, well, this feels natural to me. Yeah. He's an amazing painter. Maybe he was always painting, but he paints in acrylic. He paints very, very well. But I just had never seen anything like it. And then there was an explosion the next couple of years of artists from that area doing similar styles. He taught Dennis Savak how to tattoo, as far as I understand. I could be giving wrong information, but I've heard that. And Dennis Savak is 100% on the same level. Just incredible tattoo artist. You know what I mean?
So that video, how long was the video? So in the video, he's tattooing the woman minus the bird?
Correct, yeah. And it's about 8 hours long. And I just would sit there and just, I wouldn't watch it all at once, but I just kind of always had it on, and I would just pick it apart and like, I bought the same exact machines. I would write him and, what is the stroke length? I was that annoying guy. Right. You know what I mean? He was always incredibly friendly to me, always super helpful. But I still feel like even though I spent years trying it, I still feel like I haven't ever been able to. I wouldn't do this tattoo today with just a 7-round shader. I would incorporate it. Yeah. But I just wouldn't. You know what I mean? Even though obviously it can be done. But that's another one of those lessons. I'm not going to be a second-rate Dimitri. I would rather be the best Joshua Carlton. Right. So this is part of that journey. You guys are witnessing part of what literally ate at me, but made me come around to the artist I am today.
Man, so this makes me want to do the next Realism piece with just one. I almost still don't believe you. Like, the cynical side of me is wanting to fucking take your word on it, but I'm like,
no, I believe me, I've watched it enough. I promise you. There's no Magnum, nowhere, never opened, ever. Mm-hmm.
Have you ever shook hands with this dude?
No. He's never been to the States, and I've never been to the Ukraine, so.
Wow. Fuck.
But what he taught me, I think, more than anything was like, and again, you've heard me say it before, I always thought tattoos were amazing when you did them, and when they healed, they looked good, but they looked like a good healed tattoo. I can't tell that bird is not brand new. And
No shit.
I guarantee you that tattoo in person, you said you saw a healed picture, I know it looks as good, right?
Oh, it's 3 years out, dude, and it's still, I mean, look at that, Matt.
Yeah.
And so that's what kept me up. It's like, I don't care if I can artistically do it, if I can't make it stay that good forever. And obviously some of it's on the client. It didn't mean shit to me, and it became this obsessive journey for me to like I said, to marry those two together, artistically and technically. You know, you have to be a proficient tattoo artist. You have to be a technically good tattoo artist. You know, it's not just about like, it's not about the photo. Fuck the photo.
Okay.
You know, it's about the client that wears that for fucking ever.
Yeah. Other than that whole piece, even just like the light blue background is hard to get saturated.
That's a hard color no matter what you're using.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, with a 15 mag, that's a hard color. Light blue with all that white in it, you know that shit's bleeding, and you're like, I think it's solid.
Right.
Nope, not for him. Fucking boom.
Right, and when you're using a round mag, at least for me, like I can't just kind of scribble or go loose and just push my way with the round mag. It's got to be more methodical and slower to get like good saturation. And it just if that he did that in 8 hours, I couldn't do that in fucking 12 hours.
And I will, and that was another thing. I think a lot of people are like, oh, it probably took him 30 hours. No. And he does do it different than you'd expect. It's like long ovals, really wide, like the first kind of like scribble of it. When he first wipes it off, it's like solid-ish, but he just kind of sees it, hits it again, and it's just absolutely fucking solid.
Does he go a different direction on the second pass?
It doesn't. Yeah. I mean, maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
But we've talked in the past about color bumping, and if you look at it, that's closer to what's going on here. He's not how we blend with the Magnum. His colors are just so close together that they're optically blending for you.
Really?
Which gives you a much more contrast. You know what I mean? Because you've got color. Look at the collarbone underneath that white necklace. That brown, and then there's a lighter brown just sitting right next to it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And when you realize that, the tattoo artist Steve Butcher comes to mind as well. He tattoos in a similar style to that.
Yeah.
And I think we've talked about this, like, are you a colorist or are you a shader? And I think, now Dimitri's a master of both, but I think he thinks like a colorist, where he's just able to think with color like that. And I think me and Hip are more of I think you as well, Matt, are more of a color blender kind of we see shades and values a lot better, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so even on, the right cheek of this portrait, so looking at it be our left, the subject's right cheek, so you got that brown coming off the white, and then it changes color, getting closer to the nose, right? And none of that's blended. You're saying those are tones like right next to each other? I mean, there's some overlap.
It's pretty much impossible. I'm probably going to regret saying that because somebody's going to say they can do it. I don't know how you would blend with a 7-round shader. Like I think you could do a tiny bit, but not like a Magnum where you can brush it out and get those soft stipples that you can kind of blend together, Wow. Yeah, it's something else. It's like watching magic unfold when you watch it, because like there's parts of the face when he's up in the eyebrow and the forehead area, there's these big chunks of brown that look like there's no possible way that's ever going to work, and then boom, he lays down this creamy chocolatey color next to it, and it just magically fucking works. And I just go to bed pissed. You know what I mean?
Man, you make this shit sound delicious.
Right, chocolatey.
Man. Wow. Well, way to fucking set the standard through the roof tonight, Josh.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
So good. Man. So good.
Yeah.
Mike's asking us, are we good? We want to move on to the next one, Josh? Or?
Let's see what else we got.
Okay. Wow, good pick.
Oh, come on now.
Well, and I'll say this for all of our listeners and viewers. When I came to the game almost 16 years ago, obviously we got my mentor who brought me on board, which we can get to in a minute because he's on my list. But right after my mentor, there's a dude at my shop by the name of Kyle Cotterman, who, before I was a tattoo artist, I already was a portrait artist. So I knew coming into the game, I wanted to do this thing called realism. It's funny. Everyone at the shop said I wouldn't even be allowed to try realism until I had 7 years under my belt. Like I wasn't even allowed.
Interesting that exact number. That's when it happens, right?
That's right. Now, thank God I didn't allow other people's perceptions or limitations and immediately become my own limitation. If I'd have just, and from that moment, 16 months later, I was at the Nashville tattoo convention winning tattoo of the day for a black gray portrait I did of Ani DeFranco just 16 months later, which was awesome. But so it's always been funny to me. The guy's like, no, you can't for 7 years. So that dude ended up hating my guts. You know what I'm saying? But anyhow, man, so obviously Kyle Cotterman was the guy closest to me doing any sort of realism. And Kyle is the one that turned me on to this god that he called Joshua Carlton. And when I saw Josh's work, that it was game over for me. One, I was at a place of like, man, I won't ever be able to, but I'm going to spend the rest of my days trying to even get in that echelon. Something you were touched on earlier, Joshua, is like the art side of it. That came more naturally to you. And my God, it shows. And even in prior episodes when we've talked about maybe even orchestrating, setting 5 portrait artists down, have them all do the same portrait, what's going to set one apart from the others, and you got it, which if we want to call it the art, and so this last minute I just threw in it, Mike, because of the piece you just pulled, because I remember seeing this piece, and again, just the style. Yes, he executed everything well. Look at the dynamic, the values, those fucking darks, but then even the style around it all in the negative space, and it just was like mind-blowing. It feels so good. It's like, whew, it just helps you like breathe, like, oh my God. And speaking of, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say, is this actually to share with other tattoo artists as well? This particular tattoo was one of the first tattoos that I realized the absolute power of negative space, because the negative butterfly is the most prominent thing over white highlights. So you think like, oh, I'm going to pack white in there, but try to remember, guys and girls out there, that negative space is actually, especially if it's surrounded by darkness, is going to be your most powerful. Most powerful imagery,
Man, you're so right, and this obviously is the fruit of that. But but with your style on that, because so many people that would attempt that or try that, even from this episode, is gonna have the same value all around that negative space butterfly. The fact that your value is different, and then on the top of it, you lightly dusted and shaded on top of it. Fucking game changer. Just those little things makes all the world of difference.
That little bit of white right there by the nose and the lip.
Whoa, fuck yeah.
And he's taken like the meat and potatoes of Pinterest tattoos, a butterfly silhouette, thrown it in with this.
Which wasn't around then.
Right, and that's also because, like, do you remember, and I guess I could look since do you remember really what year? Because I feel like this was pre the tattoo that kept you up at night, or no?
It was, speaking of Kyle, I've tattooed Kyle Cotterman many times, and I know this was before I tattooed his head. So it could have, actually it was before the Dimitri tattoo.
That's what I thought.
It definitely was. Yeah.
That's what I thought, which is, again, is proof that, like, when he pulled up the Dimitri he just did, which was beautiful, obviously, in the African, I knew, like, dude, I remember you fucking killed it on a few African pieces yourself, and this is one of them.
I appreciate it.
And again, the style and the art, because yes, the one he just said, and that's why, Josh kind of made the distinction between the artistic approach and the technical,
Right.
And this obviously, to me, artistic approach pegged on 10, while technically is fucking amazing
Thank
too.
you. I was lucky enough that I ended up doing this guy's entire back as well, so I got to see it healed many, many years later, and I can happily say it's really solid for sure.
Yeah.
So.
I feel like I saw that this tattoo fucking knocked me off of my chair in like 09, 2010, something around there.
That sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
Fucking love it.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
And just the use of blacks. I for our viewers, we're on a like a group chat, and so far I've sent like a couple images on there to get critiqued, because I like to be critiqued, because as Todd would say, Matt's brother, not only do I look for my weak spots, but I've paid money for them as well.
Yeah.
And you know, Josh just talks about contrast, and granted, contrast can come from other forms than just pumping black into something, but I've always appreciated like the integrity of your pieces and your work. And like,
Oh my God.
I'm going to say this for the lack of a better term, but just to kind of get the point across, like the little cheats you'll do, like I think that I have to stick 100% to an image, but you'll do things like hide some of the nostrils,
Yes,
or
absolutely.
images,
The ear.
the ear, the eyes, you'll hide that in black, and it just makes it that much stronger. And 30 years down the road, this thing's going to be solid as fuck. And that little bit of detail that might go into the nostril or the ear that could possibly be shown doesn't
Right.
even matter.
Yeah, and one of the secrets of that gets me is the trick is you can't let your client see the original photo that you know, that your original reference is. If they see two nostrils and you're going to put in one shadow, they're going to go, what about? But if it just, you got to ask yourself, like, does my reference look good? If it does, trust it, because you're not better than Mother Nature. You know what I mean? You're gonna do it. So, you know, I come from a background of horror movies and stuff, and I love just darkness and creatures coming out of the dark, and so I'm trying to kind of capture some of that look. So like, yeah, I am hiding the ear and the nostril and stuff like that, but to me it doesn't matter, because the expression on this child's face is what tells the story. And so that's what I'm focusing on. It's not about the details. It's actually not detailed at all. It's very, very, very minimal. Much closer to a traditional tattoo that happens to look like a real person, you know?
Wow, dude. Such strong dynamic, though. You know, we go to the child's face and the expression, and, you know, but then, you know, the little bit of white's over on the left, and then that negative space up top, and then even how you've just floated all in up the neck, like all around that tattoo is life-giving, you know? It's just fucking beautiful, man.
It was definitely one that I remember being like, okay, maybe I can do this tattoo thing. You know what I mean? I felt good that day, you know?
Yeah.
Those are so far and few between, aren't they?
They are. And this is a great client. He's you know, people hate the term collector, but he's one of the first collectors that I remember working on, and he had work from everybody: Bob Terrell, Mike DeVries, you know, literally like Guy Aitchison, Jeff Gogwe. So it was intimidating. You know what I mean? It was intimidating, and I remember just being so happy that he picked. You know, he's like, hey, I'd really like to do one of your drawings. I had drawn this first for an art show.
Yes.
And and I drew it from some amazing photographers, you know, work. But I was like, yeah, I'd absolutely love to do this. And like I said, it turned into, after this, his entire back. Also, one of my paintings is his entire back now. So pretty cool.
Very cool. Awesome.
Are they warm, Matt?
Huh?
Are they warm?
Huh?
Are they warm?
What?
Josh's balls.
I had a feeling that was going somewhere.
I did too. That's why I had to play into it and be like, what?
Right.
Huh?
Okay, so, all right. Oh, what are we doing?
Wow.
Is that what we're doing?
Wow.
Okay.
So this is me, and I had seen this dude's work a lot, and really didn't, you know, because again, there's so many artists that are inspiring.
And you know what? For our listeners, whoever's not watching, go ahead and say his name.
Nick Noon,
Okay.
and I believe he's out of New Zealand.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Maybe he's slaps hands with like Matthew Jordan and all the guys at Ship Shape.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
all.
it says ship shape tattoo right there in the.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
There
where
we
he's
go.
at. He's on that team.
Yeah, so like that shop is just a bunch of killers. DBK, Matt Jordan, Nick Noon, like Mayonnaise, that lettering dude who just does crazy fucking spiral lettering. But yeah, this dude really strikes me and is inspiring because he's so versatile in anything. Here you see some Japanese traditional work, big, oversized, beautiful pieces, and he also does extremely beautiful realism. And the color choices that he uses are a lot more like lower chroma, and it just, I'm stuck at how some of the pieces he does and the color choices he uses, like what will that look like years down the road? But he's got other pieces like a fox that's it feels like it's going the wrong direction, but it lays perfectly and it's got such good flow.
The whole leg piece.
That whole leg piece. And it's healed multiple years and it's just a beautiful piece. And I sent Mike multiple images of this dude's work because I just can't pick one. Here we go. So here's the fox.
Wow.
Like the flow, just to even think to do it that way is just phenomenal.
It's the inside,
And it's more, you could throw this dude anything and it's always, he just hits it out of the park. And it's soft.
He rocks a lot of muted tones too, but it makes shit pop, which I love. It's richer. And there's a mix up of styles in there, which is really sweet.
So I'll embarrassingly say not familiar with this artist. But which is what I was hoping would happen today.
Fuck yeah.
But I will say, first of all, what the fuck is happening at Ship Shape Tattoo?
No
because
kid.
First, I mean, you got Matt Jordan, one of my absolute fucking heroes. We're great friends. I luckily call him a friend. Love the guy. Steve Butcher came from the same shop. DBK, Nick Newton. I mean, Mike, every time I find somebody and I'm like, showing my babe, look at this guy's work. Oh, guess what? Fucking Ship Shape Tattoo. Are you fucking kidding me? How is this even possible? And so this guy's tattoo, this Nick Newton, this tattoo is ridiculous. I mean, holy fuck. Like, I don't care what style you're into. Like, for those that are listening, you got to go watch this, on the YouTube channel as well, because you need to see this stuff.
Jeez.
Both of these, I'm sitting here just kind of quietly at first, but like the layout of the fox.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And on his Instagram, he shows you the progression of sessions, and
he does.
He kind of you get it behind the scene, which is awesome.
And to have the balls to like, I'm just gonna do an orange. I'm gonna do the head in orange. I'm gonna do the like. There's no contrast, but that one single line on the snout, and it fucking works.
Oh man,
dude, what are you doing?
And he's like, I'm gonna take up the whole side of the thigh with the thigh of the fox.
Like it's brutally beautiful. It's literally, that's the best word I can think of.
Fuck yeah.
This guy could tattoo my face.
Right. And he's always using those soft pastel colors, and it's just mind blowing of how subtle of a change it is in the tones of the color, but because I'll zoom in on it and then to step back and look, and it works. And I don't know. This is another artist that I would just want to sit behind like a fly on the wall and watch.
And even like there's pieces in a lot of his pieces that are lined where dudes would think you could only line with black in this part. He's not. He's lining with color, and there's a gradients of values, and it eventually gets to contrast, but it's not just straight up. Let's just outline all these finger waves in black. You know what I'm saying? Mike, do you mind showing the back of a leg again, or swiping? Like see right there. You know, I mean, fuck.
The composition is bulletproof.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm glad you picked him. He's one of my favorites.
Thanks
today.
a lot, Hip. My day is definitely ruined. I'll be up real late tonight. Drawing in sketchbooks and crying.
Yeah. And this dude, Nick Noon's versatility, Because a lot of guys, they get good at a certain niche, realism or whatever, and some guys can even swing versatile. But his is across, his spectrum is really broad. Whatever he does, he fucking does it well, and it's more broad and versatile than most of us.
Oh yeah,
I think that's a movement that I'm excited about that's happening in tattooing right now. Yeah. I remember when this happened with skateboarding. Skateboarding had this huge rush, and then it kind of died off. But when it came back, it's like you had to be able to do everything, but then also do it goofy foot as well. Like you had to be like, it's not good enough that you can just do a portrait anymore. Like you got to be able to do this and a portrait and blackout work, and it's crazy. And like I love that because it's bringing out the fucking best and the beasts. You know what I mean? So,
and his usage of grays instead of blacks are impressive. Yep, real impressive, man. Hip, you picked a good one. And that's why I love, because I think Josh and I, again for tonight, we're picking some of the guys that like lit us up early on to help us grow to where we are. And I like that you're picking some current badasses and I agree. I agree with you. He's one of my favorites, and I know Josh is like, well, okay. I love that you didn't know who he was too.
Yeah, I was hoping that would happen. I'm blown away. It's fucking beautiful. Nick Noon, if you ever listen to this, fucking hats off, sir.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah.
Jeez. Okay, Mike, what we got up next? Good call.
Okay, so this is another one of mine here. So this is a tattoo by who will probably always be my favorite tattooer, Mr. Robert Hernandez.
Come on.
From Spain.
Yep.
He was definitely the one who the earliest. I think Paul Booth would have been the earliest of where I was just like fucking floored and like if I could ever even come close to tattooing. Robert Hernandez definitely came out with that. Again, I brought this particular picture up because of contrast. This is where my journey started. When I saw this tattoo, which you can tell is healed, by the way.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wait, you don't have to count the eyelashes and do all, you know what I mean? Look at that contrast.
Yeah.
And it just, to me, coming from a photography background, was like, that's black and white photography on skin.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And so it's just one of those tattoos that I just really appreciated. Notice the fingernails, completely negative.
Yeah.
I just fucking love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons I was attracted to the new breed style of tattooing. I know, Matt, you're super familiar with that, obviously.
Yep.
Negative space, contrast, like not finishing the top of the head. So many people want to like, even the hands, you know what I mean? Where he decided to stop the hand. Look at the hand on our right. Like it, if you just look at that hand, it's almost like, what the fuck? But it 100% works. So you're seeing the birth of my own stuff in a tattoo like this. You know what I mean? So that's definitely one that I just always really, really loved.
Roughly timeline, year?
I'm going to guess this was even, as early as 2008.
Yeah, which I think is important for all the dudes that are just scrolling Instagram now. You only been in the game 5 years. It's important to acknowledge motherfuckers that have been doing this shit.
The thing is I understand now you get on Instagram and everybody's amazing. Keep in mind, there wasn't any Instagram. I'm showing my age for sure here, but there was no Pinterest or any of that. So there was something called a website.
Yeah, right.
And, you were lucky that, oh my gosh, Robert Hernandez posted a new picture. It's been 6 months.
Yeah, right.
And the pictures weren't very big and they weren't like zoomable to blow up and everything.
Man. Yeah.
And in fact, a lot of my favorite tattoos that were on those websites, they end up getting an Instagram page and put like some of their work up, but those favorites are not there often. You know what I mean?
Right.
Art is subjective, obviously. So this tattoo, some listener could be looking at this and being like, yeah, that's no big deal. And maybe today it's not as big of a deal, but at the time, it blew my mind. You know what I mean? And it was like, this is how I want a tattoo. This is the proper way to do realism that's going to hold up and like stand out from across the street. It's powerful. It's very powerful. I want my art to be a message,
Dude, and to see this healed and to see like in between, the top lip, the chin, in between the fingers, how that black is blacker than, above the fingers, like to try and pull that off fresh, one thing, but for it to heal up and strategically your blacks are blacker than, usually even to this day, it may take me a follow-up session to make it look like that.
Right. And he just was nailing it. This is pre-rotary machine. This is pre people have figured out pigments better. Look at the nose, like just like Hip was talking. There's no hole for the nostril.
Right.
Like, it's just your brain finishes the story. You know what I mean? Like an amateur tattooer would want to go in there and be like, I'm going to put detail in the fingernails. Nope. You're fucking it up.
And the fear of, I'm just going to pack the whole top lip solid black. It's
just
like,
black.
what?
Yeah.
No, but there's a little highlight on it, because you and I both know there was probably more highlight on that top lip in the reference.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Look at the shadow.
Look
at the shadow under on the bottom lip. I mean, that's just some tribal black.
Yep.
And the thing is that if you're a tattooer listening, you know this. Even after 30 years, even after I preach how much contrast, when I'm packing that black in and there's no shading, I'm scared as fuck still. Like, oh
really?
shit! And I go to
well, that's
because
good to know, because it don't look like you're afraid.
It's like, before you blend off that black, it doesn't look real, like it's flat.
Yes.
So when so look at the nose. When you just, because I tattoo dark to light, so when you just have that black shape that makes the shadow of the nose, that doesn't look like a fucking nose at all.
Right. And
when your customer's looking down at it and you feel them judging you, because they do, it looks funny to them. You know what I mean? So, and then what happens to me is, because I'm an empath and I can feel it, I go, well, maybe he's right, and start making it not as black. And guess what? Not as good as a tattoo.
The discipline to not want to soften that edge, just to keep it blunt as fuck. Like, even on his top lip, it's a black, and almost like he turned his mag sideways and just did those like couple creases.
The little creases, yeah.
And when you do it like that, whether he's the liner or his mag, you think, as a realism artist, well, that doesn't seem natural. But to let that ride and keep going, that's
you
almost
trust
like
the process.
Man, almost like color bumping.
Sure, yeah.
In a way, instead of wanting to smooth everything out, but in this case, you'd lose some of that dynamic of the punch of the contrast. Even under his pinky on his cheek, just that black, just to put that in, it's like, what the fuck is that? Now his pinky's fucked up, but it works now.
Yeah.
I love it when I'm teaching my seminars. I love to pick my own tattoos apart, and I'll show areas where I'm like, look at this fucking hair. If you just look at the hair without the rest of the picture, you'd be like, fuck Josh Carlton, this sucks. But together it might work. Hopefully it works, you know what I mean?
Right.
And that's the thing, is all these little pieces of the puzzle make up this beautiful tattoo,
Yeah, dude. It's powerful. And something else I've always appreciated about Hernandez is the texture when he'll play into stuff.
Yeah, he was real early on that. And he likely used the stencil for this, but 100% he could just draw this shit onto. Man. And if you look at his drawings, they're really minimal. It's like a line and some, it's like, here's the eyes, here's this. And, and that's a lot of his more creepy faces where he doesn't even know what it's going to be until, and all that comes from muscle memory. You fill sketchbooks up with the same face over and over again.
Right.
Eventually you can just draw it. But I've seen him draw portraits of members of Kiss and stuff like that, Gene Simmons, and they look like photographs, so
man,
incredible.
Yeah man, very cool. Good pick. What we got, Mike? Here we go, on to the next. Okay, cool. So guys, this is a pioneer in my life by the name of Brianbrenner, who impacted my life greatly. Number one, he was my mentor. He was the guy that brought me into the tattoo game, and it wasn't easy. It took me 3 years of almost begging for him to even decide to fuck with me. And then the day he decided to take me on, I guess he wasn't really. His original plan was he was going to fire me in a week or two later. Thank God in that process, something about me won him over. But this was probably started back in like 2006. And talk about finding your own style. So Brianbrenner is a great example of a dude who found his own style. His style found him, created it. But over the years, depending on what era, he reinvented it. This was an era when he was doing only black and gray, and still is to this day. But before this, he was known as the new school color guy, was he not, Josh?
Absolutely. When I met him, he was pretty well known. I'd even go as far as saying like a quote unquote famous tattoo artist.
Yeah.
And it was all color, really, really bright, lots of white, fantastic work, super booked up at conventions and everything. Yeah. And just always absolutely had his own thing going on.
Yeah. Mike, go ahead and show us it, because I gave you 3 Brenner pieces. I'm just using my 3 up on him for a reason. Now, look at this. This is a skull. It's style's just fucking off the charts. Right. And he is who I call the flow master. And his pieces are moving. And it's got such flow. But this is a skull that he just drew on, probably with a big pen or a Sharpie.
Sure, yeah.
And if you see, if he ever used color, it would usually be red. But if you talk about negative space in the mouth, it's creating like a light source, right? But just the movement around that negative space, going up into his chin, the light burst out of his eye socket that's overlapping his other eye socket. It's got movement coming out of it. I mean, no matter where you look at on that tattoo, it's flowing, it's moving. And I guarantee this was like session 1 or 2. It looks like session 2. And he would just build it. But man, again, 06 fucking style off the chart. And he was one of those artists. It don't matter what idea or image you brought to him, whether you wanted a skull, you wanted a bird, whatever, you're going to get it in Brenner style. And you either love him for that and went to him because of that, or if you're one of the few that didn't know that and wondered why the fuck your skull's got a huge fucking all this shit moving around, But Mike, go ahead and show the other one.
And real quick,
you want to go back to that?
Well, no, that's fine. It's just that he's such a prolific person in the tattoo community and in Ohio, and specifically in Dayton, that I know his pieces. No one has to tell me who did them. I know exactly who it is. Yeah. On some occasions, though, he's had such a prolific impact on his students that he's taught and people that have worked around him. I've called pieces out that I thought were Brenners, but were either early Matt Klemmer pieces or Cookie pieces. Anyone, it seems like that came up under Brianbrenner has got that. They're trying to imitate that flow and those wisps that they've got all over his pieces that are just signature Brenner pieces.
Yeah, and this is an example. I guarantee the client came to him and said, "Hey, I just want like a little bird and a heart." And this is him creating his own version of a bird and a heart. Not only, again, is he the flow master, but it's also texture city. And I remember he did all that. He'd set up with a 3-liner and then a 15 mag. And just get to town. But I just always was impressed with not only his texture, his flow. I mean, man, even if you look close to like on the bridge of the beak and you see like there's dark and then there's light, then there's dark little textures, then there's light, then there's dark little, almost like a little light burst coming off that way. Right. The little details of texture on the heart. It's not fully colored in. You see negative space texture on that heart. Just as back to art, back to style. To me, just like Joshua Carlton, whose style is pegged on 10, Brianbrenner is style pegged on fucking 100 in my book,
I 100% agree. And like a perfect example of this is all 3 of us, if we were to say do a heart, we were going to put a highlight in it that makes sense and everything, that the way he did the negative highlight is fucking brilliant. It's one of my favorite parts of the whole tattoo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The way that it's like, it completely makes sense, but it's like, and that's out of his head, but it looks like you would have had to have looked at a gem or something to understand that light source.
Yeah.
And then talk about a ballsy tattooer. Like, man, every tattoo he does is like that. And another thing, since we, talking about what we Tattoo Guardians talk about a lot, Brian was one of my early influencers of go out and do whatever the fuck you want to do. Just goddamn better do it good.
Man,
you know what I mean?
And he still lives by that, even with his kids.
Yeah. It's like Brian. He might say, "I'm gonna open up a fucking I'm going to start a skate company, and people talk about it. Well, guess what? Fucking Brian did it, and it was successful, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to start a fucking music label, whatever. If Brian says he's going to do it, if he does it, you better watch the fuck out or get on board, because this guy means business.
Yep.
And he was somebody that early on that I was like, oh shit, you can just do what you want to do if you're fucking good at it.
Own it.
Go out there and be good.
Yes, dude. And that showed up in every area of his life, and therefore our life. If you're rolling on his team, anything short of excellence and being the best is not an option. Even how we rolled into conventions, most people's booth looked a certain way. Even in the latter years, like in the past decade, even at the Massachusetts convention, they were seriously considering creating a new award category for the best booth because of how I would decorate my booth and show it with plants and flowers and shit. Just go over the top. I learned that from Brian. Now I took it on and did mine. He didn't show it with plants and shit, but man, talk about a force to be reckoned with. The biggest, the baddest banner. And he even taught me like little things for presentation instead of having a book for people to get up and flip on. Because if someone comes to your booth, they're flipping in a book. Only 2 people can see that. There's a crowd behind them waiting. He taught me how to just put your work in frames, put them up. So now 20 people can look,
To this day, that's all. I haven't had a book since I met Brian. It makes sense. It's like, why wouldn't you have? And I used, when I was not very known, I would make sure when I was unpacking my shit, I'd walk around with my frame facing outwards, just hoping somebody'd be like, hey, who did that work? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, it's easy to get clients when your book is closed. You know what I mean? Like that frame idea is everything.
Presence and presentation.
You saying you walked around with your shit outward showing.
Yeah.
I've done that too, and it's I've done it for validation from other artists, or so clients can see it. I appreciate hearing you say that.
Yeah. And another thing I love about Brian and Mr. Brenner has taught us all so much, but it's one, presentation, but the ability to back it up with your presence. Showing up fucking strong as fuck with an attitude of like, we're here to take over. You know what I'm saying? And it was just fucking powerful, and people either revered him or feared him, And
I'm lucky enough that I've been to so many shows with Brian because I was, tooling around with Mark, St. Mark, and his brother Monty, and Brian would just fucking come home with all the trophies. You know what I mean? Because it was like that style was so original. It just was like immediate, like the appreciation was just immediate. You know what I mean? So he used to he just have boxes of trophies.
Oh yeah, man, powerhouse. So
choice.
other than his artwork, because again, just his style screams, do whatever the fuck you want. It screams,
but do it well.
Do it well.
Yeah.
But he taught me that in business too. To fast forward almost 15 years later, and now I'm a business coach for the tattoo industry. And early on, I learned a lot from Brenner in more ways than one. Everything to take on, how to be, what I want to take on, what I've learned is powerful. And then I got to learn the things on what not to be, right? Because we all get to do that. And my goodness, he'll forever be like, my one of my mentors, my first mentors. And, even when we parted years ago, unfortunately, that was hurtful and painful because it was like, my father, my tattoo father. But I bring this up because so many of you listeners, it's important for us to honor our mentors, no matter what your relationship is with like them today. It's common to have falling outs or whatever, time for you to go do your own thing, right? And I'd always prayed and hoped that our relationship could be restored. And the good news is it has been, and it is. And I just fucking forever grateful, and I'm thankful not only that I get to call him my mentor, but even to this day, a really good fucking friend who we were talking earlier, and how I got these pictures. These pictures aren't on Instagram because I wanted to go back to when he brought me into the game, which was in around 05, 06. And so I called him up, and he went digging through some of his older portfolios and personally sent me these to share tonight. Nice. And so that just feels real good too, that we're brothers again, and have been for years. But my God, thank you, Brianbrenner. I honor you. I love you and I respect you. Thank you for what you've taught me and given us in the industry. I even saw a video of Nico who was like honoring Brenner.
Dude, the last Evergreen, I had the opportunity to like kick it and talk to him, telling him a little bit where I was at. And
who, Nico or Brenner?
Nico.
Okay.
And he said that Brenner and St. Mark, before Nico was doing Nico, was watching him do, just little, normal tattoos. Yep. And they would see a sketchbook, and I believe his exact words was from Brenner were, "Why in the fuck aren't you tattooing like you draw?" And the same spiel, he told me basically what he told you, like fucking do it and own it and do it good. And that was like a moment for Nico to like move into the realm of traditional and portrait artist.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Way cool. Definitely a pioneer. Josh, you've mentioned it before. All of us in the game today, we're all standing on the backs of giants,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, Mike, what we got coming down the pike?
Okay, this is me, and I can't even tell you the dude's name, but I've seen a lot of his shit, and there's a couple things about him. One, it's magnificent, it's powerful, but also I do know that the Tattoo Truth Fairy has lit this dude up before as well. As far as like what he does to his images for like the video and photo, which, to each their own. Me personally, I'm not a fan of it, but also I have seen his pieces healed, and they look great because I know what I'm looking for. To a client, they can be somewhat deceiving.
Right.
And the time that he puts into these, or says, I think this is like 3 days, which is a lot for fucking 3 days.
Yeah.
And it's very intricate, and just the drama with some of his pieces are phenomenal. And he's an artist that I would like to sit and see tattoo. And there's some of his stuff, because I'll zoom in, that looks like loose, or I don't want to say that it's lazy, or maybe it's just a part that's not important to the artist. But to me, it always poses a question as like, well, how or why would he leave that like that? And a lot of his earlier work is like nothing but like damn near solid black and white.
Right. Yeah, he's one of those artists that I think kind of changed the skull game a bit. Just bringing those incredible textured skulls. Elliot Koek did the same thing. Yeah, I mean, you can tell he's definitely using a polarizer. He's maybe even slightly abusing a polarizer. A good way to know is when your black is just deeper than any black can possibly be in tattooing. You know what I mean? You can't see skin texture and stuff. It's a toss-up because it does make for a great photograph. When you look at a painting in a gallery, it's hanging in its best light possible. So it's kind of like similar to that. But I have seen some pictures of his work healed, and it does look extremely good. It does look extremely good. I'd love to see this tattoo healed. It's crazy,
man.
And I love the way he pieced it. If he did it in 3 days, did you notice in that one picture how he like just stenciled a chunk of it and then lined it up? And I'm thinking, fuck, it must have taken 5 hours to make the stencil.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And that to me is just screams like time, discipline.
Right.
Because that's one of those pieces. It's like, even if you can, but why though?
Yeah, exactly.
But
why
fucking
though?
why?
Yeah.
You sure you want to fucking do this? Like, you ever created a piece and you're kicking yourself? Like, why the fuck did I decide to do all this?
Man, and you know that. So this is more of a new age movement. So this dude's all fucking round shaders. I'm pretty sure smaller.
Yeah,
mags.
I wonder. I'm curious. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, Adele Aduri.
Yeah.
Adele Aduriel tattoo by Sandry.
Yeah, thanks for
It's,
our listeners. Yeah,
it's a French tattoo artist from somewhere in France. I also can't pronounce. But again, if you are listening, you should definitely get a chance to watch the video of this just so you can really see what we're talking about. But it's an extraordinary tattoo. I can appreciate it. Would never want to do it.
Right,
you know what I mean? Like that's one of those ones on the very first stained glass window. I'd be like, fuck.
Right.
No,
3 hours later.
Yeah.
Well, what he did was he just lightly magged all the color on and then just stenciled black over it all.
Right. It's a cool concept. It's he's definitely pushing the boundaries of what's been done. And again, when everybody's so fucking good now, I don't blame the guy, or maybe it's a female. I'm not sure actually.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I don't blame them for for stretching out like that. Now, Hip, is this the same artist that I will see a really amazing skull, and then there'll be like a cartoon fish of Nemo in the eye socket of the skull? Yeah. That's
or Winnie,
badass stuff too.
Or Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, or like a Disney thing. It's like it's such a different. Talk about style. You know what I mean? Like it's such a different approach.
And see, so it's stuff like that kind of have me questioning. So I've studied a lot under the great Yogi Berra, and studying with him and just watching him tattoo and noticing like how laser focused he gets to paying attention to fine details. It's just rubbed off on me, almost, at least for me, to a point of where like you've told me like allow myself room and not be so much like a photo printer and be the artist I'm meant to be. So I've had to like find balance between that. But like I'll zoom in, like the piece you're talking about with the Finding Nemo, like if you zoom in at it, like the lines around Nemo aren't as crispy as I would have them be, but it's all right because it plays well and it's tasteful.
That's such a, sorry to interrupt you. That's such a like interesting topic, because it's like clearly he's an incredible artist. So is that on purpose?
Right there, the Winnie the Pooh, Mike. You see him reaching up. Sorry, Josh, I didn't want him to pass it. But yeah, so why wouldn't you take the extra time to like make that line tight?
Yeah, but then like maybe it is on purpose, right? Maybe he wants to make sure that the skull. I don't know. It's interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow. See that? What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Great
That's
dynamic
ridiculous.
change, though.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at the color.
Jeez. If someone's
look at the color on the genie.
Yeah.
No shit.
Dude's a texture master.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. There's the Nemo.
Wow. Yeah.
It's like someone's like, I can do this style, and he can do this style, and he's like, hold my beer.
Right.
That's one of those things you definitely just get your clientele, because can you imagine like you got a new client, you're like, okay, check it out. I know you said you wanted a skull, but we're going to throw Nemo in there. What's up?
Just that mint green or seafoam off the side of the head. Like, man. So cool.
Beautiful.
And yeah, that's cool. And so, and again, to any of our listeners, I'm only critiquing because I would ask this of this gentleman or lady, just because I want to know, to give myself more freedom. And when I'm tattooing, like, is it cool to is it all right to do that? Because I couldn't. It's hard. I put myself in this box, and I'm like, I can't deviate past this box, or like so and so is gonna see it and not hit the like button, which is silly as fuck.
Right. But now, to play devil's advocate too, like I have seen pictures of tattoos where it looks like the line work is not clean, and it's something that the phone, it's like an iPhone, like it's something that it's trying to correct some sort of exposure, and then in person. I have no idea if that's the case, but it is possible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's good to know that we can just use.
Yeah, I remember doing a tattoo. I did a tattoo it was this dog portrait, like peeling out of a banana, and the banana was all outlined, real new school like. And when she sent me pictures, she sent me pictures healed, and like one of the lines looked like, just atrociously bad. And I was like, how the fuck did I not notice that? And then when she came in, totally clean. It was something. I don't know what happened, but it fucked me up. I was like, Jesus Christ, I can't outline. Your guy was right. You know what I mean? So
I was just getting ready to say, well, you can't outline anyway.
Right, exactly. But so it is possible, especially since he's likely making the phone focus on, say, the nasal cavity of the skull.
Yeah.
Again, there's a lot of AI stuff behind the scenes with these phone pictures. I have no idea at all. I would love to ask him as well. It's like such a delicate question. Like, hey, bro, did you mean to do that sloppy? Like you know what I mean? Because it still looks amazing. And like some of my favorite paintings are really sloppy. So it could totally be on purpose.
Yep.
Yeah, and how do you approach someone like that and say something like that without seeming like you're a fucking asshole?
You're asking for a friend.
Right. Hey, my buddy wanted to know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's perfect, but my buddy Hip wants to know.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Wow.
Okay, so this is me again here, and this one fucked me up bad. This is a tattoo artist named Denis Savak, who you heard me talk about as well. Again, I believe that Dimitri taught him how to tattoo. Okay. Now lives in New York City, actually. I have a huge tattoo on my leg from him that is just incredible. It took about 11 hours. It's flawless. Mm-hmm. This is from one of my favorite movies, which it sounds silly to say because I'm forgetting the name of it. Apocalypto.
Yeah, I love it. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
From Apocalypto. Fantastic movie. I just, at the time, I'm going to guess 2008, probably. I just had never seen anything look sweaty, you know what I mean, and or wet, and I definitely try to do like when I do like the bloody mouths and the bloody eyes and stuff. I'm really trying to capture that wetness, and also this is healed in the photo.
Wow.
And this is also the time that I knew that he was doing it all with rounds shaders as well.
Wow.
So I was just looking at it now, it makes sense. It's all a bunch of little tiny pieces that put together.
Yeah.
So it makes sense from point A to point B, as many little pieces as you can get. But the way the hair looks stuck to the face, the coloring, there's just, to me, there's nothing about it that I don't love. So I know my pictures are kind of similar. It just happens to be what subjectively I'm attracted to.
Yep.
But this is definitely, it's a forearm piece. And it's just one that I would refer back to. I used to go to his website all the time and just kind of say, one day I'm going to be able to do something that I'm going to feel that good about. And, here we are years later, still hoping that day comes.
Man.
But I don't know. I think that Denis Savak, to me, was one of the early, like, okay, you're a real artist. Whether you chose to tattoo or paint, you show here that you learned how to use your tattoo equipment, but you're approaching it like an artist. And I think I was just really, really attracted to that.
And that's skin break, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe there's no. I think there's some white, but I think what you're talking about is skin break.
Yeah, because I do see
eye.
there's white like on his piercing maybe and on his nose.
Yeah.
But off his eye and forehead and the top of his head, that's just skin, client skin, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I just think that, so I wrote Denis Savak, years later, and I had made the decision. I told my wife, I'm like, look, I've got to get tattooed by both of these artists. I don't care how far I have to go.
Yeah.
And so when I wrote Denis Savak, he's like, I'm in New York for it. And I thought it was like temporary, but he'd moved there. I didn't even know it. But I got on a plane within days.
Wow.
And flew out there, and like I said, I sat for 11 hours. I have an incredible tattoo from him. And I videotaped it. I paid attention. He doesn't speak much English, so I tried to ask him questions, Yeah. But
wow.
I think that it was worth every dime and every hour to learn anything. And to this day, his work has not only visually influenced me, but by getting tattooed by one of my heroes, I think it definitely helped me up my own game,
Man, and you know what? I appreciate you saying this is like, what'd you say, 2008?
I believe around there, yeah.
I thought this dude was a new artist because he wasn't even on my radar until he was tattooing across, kind of diagonally across from me at Evergreen. I'm telling y'all that show, if you want to bump elbows with these motherfuckers, like it's one of them shows you got to do. But
well, you got to be invited.
Well, totally. So realizing. Because I think it may have been my first year, and I was like beside Cotterman. Matt Jordan was doing a back.
I think Matt Jordan might have been like right across from him.
Yep, doing a back piece in like 2 days, which was fucking mind-blowing. And then Dennis was tattooing, and I wasn't really sure who he was, and I heard that he wasn't speaking too much English. But if I would have just, looking back in hindsight, like I almost feel like I should have been setting by his booth the whole time. I was getting filled up. It was like a kid in a candy store. Like, who do you stand by and watch? Looking back at it now, it's kind of like, man, if I get the opportunity again, I would study under this dude for sure.
I think he'll definitely be back. Dennis and I have been, I would say, friends for quite a few years now. He's such a great guy. He's such an amazing artist. Hard fucking worker. When he was tattooing me, we talked a little bit about it in his whole life, and he was saying that he tattoos, and he's into like race cars. But he likes tattoos all day long and fucks around with some race cars that he bought. But that's like it. He just loves tattooing. He just really genuinely loves it. And it shows in all of his work, Man. And you've heard me in the past say, a colorist or a tonalist, usually you don't see somebody who can do both. Dennis is an absolute master at just anything he does. If you get a chance, go to Dennis Savak, go to his Instagram, get ready to cry because everything. And talk about color saturation. He's got an astronaut on his Instagram, and it's like the brightest, most intense tattoo I think I've ever seen. And same thing, a lot of round shaders, a lot of little round shaders, It's crazy.
Man, I so appreciate knowing that this dude didn't just he's not in his third year.
No, he's been tattooing a long time, yeah.
And looking back at some of his older stuff, which is fun. One of his first posts was from 2012, and I can see that I can tell that some of it are color bumps. He'll show a healed picture, and I can see it because I can zoom in, and it's just man, it's so true. The first time I really heard about someone color bumping, at least in tattooing, was Liz Cook was talking at Educational, and she was talking about that, and I'm like, well, how does that work? And then understanding how pigment works is that it spreads over time, so until it spreads and blends under the skin, the optical illusion you get when you view it at the proper space or distance, it just works, and it works well.
It's like a contemporary oil painter. If you look at Sargent's work, Anders Zorn, there's a lot of these painters, and they don't blend. You know what I mean? And so that's what these Russian tattooers, in my opinion, were the first to kind of come out with this look. And it creates contrast. It's a very, very intimidating way to tattoo. If you look at the forehead, look at that brown coming off of the eye that is almost like an outline of a shape. It's that's so scary as a realism artist.
Right.
That's terrifying. You know what
Knowing
I mean?
that you're not going to plan on going back to blend or soften.
Yeah. But man, does it work. It just fucking works so good. You know what I mean? And I don't know, it was an incredible treat for me to be able to get tattooed by him. It was like I said, it was about 11 hours, and of course after 7 hours it hurt horribly. And it was worth, I would do it again in a heartbeat. I don't care what the price was. And I'm going to brag a little bit here, but one of the coolest parts of the conversation that we did have was I apparently was a major influence on him.
Wow.
And that was incredibly and he was showing me pictures that he had on his phone of some of the bloody mouths, and I was like, what? That's crazy,
Yes,
so
I get it.
He probably says that to everybody. He's like, oh, I'm tattooing Matt, get some pictures on my phone.
No.
But
no,
but it really made my day. And and to be honest, you've heard me talk about it before, sometimes I get almost an unhealthy obsession with somebody's work, and getting tattooed by Dennis gave me a lot of closure. You know what I mean? Actually watching the magic unfold and realizing not only is it as good as you hoped it would be, but in person it's even better. But seeing it happen makes sense. It gave me a lot of closure that I personally really needed at that point in my career. I was considering quitting tattooing because I was like, I'll never be at this level. It's just not humanly achievable. And then to watch it unfold, because he did a hand on my leg. It's like this really painterly hand, reaching up, and before it was finished, there's literally it almost looks like fruity pebbles. There's just little color splotches everywhere that don't make any sense. But then as they close together and the color next to it graduates, all of a sudden, boom, a perfect finger. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Dude.
And it's just not the way that my brain works.
Right.
You know, but I appreciate it so much.
I would love to fucking see that, because just that explanation, here it is, Matt. Josh's leg. Sexy leg. I like it. What do you do that hand over top of? Like some Celtic knotwork, some blue Celtic knot?
So I used to have the Tattooing A to Z book, the Huck Spalding book, and that was one of the flash sheets in there. I just tattooed in my kitchen.
Hey,
So that's you're looking at like probably my third tattoo I ever did.
Dude, and how you said the word closure, because when, it was probably 5, maybe 6 years ago, I got turned on to yogi, and I would just wake up every morning and see a new post of his mix-ups, and I'm like, this shit is like, it's not real. There's no way that this is true. So when I got to actually see him tattoo and then get tattooed by him, it really helped a lot, because it let me know that like this is a possibility that I can obtain this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth it for you listeners out there. If you've got somebody that you're really admiring, it's really worth it to book that appointment. I don't care. You got to get on a plane after COVID. It's so worth it, man. Talk about a seminar. Get tattooed by somebody. Pay attention.
Man.
Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's levels to this, because we can all, from technical to art, right? Because we can all see a piece done that we wouldn't have thought to do, but now that we saw that guy did it, we can immediately decode it, see how he did it, and it's like, whoa, and it just made me better, broaden my horizon because he did it. I can see what he did there. But then there's levels to this to where technically you see it, you're like, what the fuck, and how is he doing that? You can't always decode it, and you may cause you to have to go sit with him and get tattooed in person.
Exactly, and that's
that's
100% what it was. 2 + 2 was not 4 anymore.
Man.
You know what I mean?
Man.
And so I had to see it, and it happened, and it was amazing. And it's really something I highly recommend, to get tattooed by that artist that you're freaked out about, because you may become friends with them even. You may end up, you got to be careful when loving your heroes too. You never know. I've been lucky. Everybody I've been tattooed by has been amazing. So
Yeah.
Very cool. Very fucking cool. Jeez. Yep. So, again, back to style. This, folks, for all you viewers, is another Joshua Carlton piece.
Oh, thank you.
Which is just,
My God, Matt, chill, bro.
I'm saying though, man. Again, someone who impacted me not just early on, but still to this fucking day, which feels good, because we all can say who impacted us fucking 10 years ago, but now we've done grown. It's cool to be able to point back and be like, one of the motherfuckers that lit me up over a decade and a half ago, still to this day. Like, I'm glad I don't have all of what Josh has, because from Joshua Carlton alone, I would have never been able to sleep. You know what I'm saying? But dude, for real, again, the contrast in this, the style around it. I mean, another tattoo that for me, just by looking at it, like, not only is impressive, but helps you breathe. It just feels good. It's like fucking something good for your soul,
Awesome.
And this, did you incorporate some opaques in this one?
Absolutely. It's some of my earliest opaque work. The client was just super awesome and gave me a general idea, but was really, if I was like, well, this bird would look great there, she'd be like, awesome, let's do it. So I went in with a lot of confidence. Yeah. So this is some early opaque grays, and you can see like in the back it's traditional gray, and then you can see some opaques and kind of mixing it. And I did notice like I was starting to be able to get kind of an out of focus look, especially like losing the edges on that back there a little bit. I started really kind of playing around with that stuff. Yeah,
again, because this piece was done years ago. I mean, if we saw this on Instagram today, we'd be like, fuck yeah. But again, years ago, at least in my world, most people weren't at this level yet or doing it, absolutely fucking...
cool story about this woman that has this is she told me during this tattoo that she was like, I've been seeing these bikini models, these women like getting in really good shape. And she's like, I think I'm interested in that. And it was just kind of a passing phase. And now she is an absolute champion bodybuilder. She's just shredded. So talk about somebody who said what they're going to do and went out and did it. Kudos to her. In fact, she helped me on my health journey. When I was getting in shape, I would contact her. She wasn't like an official coach, but she gave me a lot of advice on, nutrition and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool to witness. She's just monstrously successful at what she's doing.
Oh, yeah.
And, so, again, how you were talking the last tattoo, going and getting tattooed by this artist is an important thing. And for the viewers that don't know, I actually have been tattooed by Josh, and it was before he found out he had cancer, and was telling me a story that, one, it was a long time that he'd done color, and two, that he was thinking about retiring. And then since the battle with cancer, he's now like more hungry than ever. So you bringing him up again, I know I joke and play around on it, but it's fun because you're one of those dudes who like inspired people years ago, and still they can flip to your page and be like, what the fuck, man? Can you slow down so we can catch up? And watching him work and how quick he worked, it was funny because like, Matt kind of has this dance when he's tattooing and he's getting in the zone and he backs away and squints his eyes, and I picked it up. And what I've picked up from you, Josh, is like midway through this tattoo when you started getting in your zone and you start doing that loose background and flare, you're standing up and stepping away and looking back, almost kind of like, it reminds me of like those the orchestrators of operas and the conductor for an orchestra. Yeah, like you were conducting while you were tattooing me, and I just remember like it was fucking amazing. And you were doing things that like, I was like, how is he allowing himself to do that and just be cool with it? And fuck, dude, like my tattoo breathes. It healed flawlessly. It looks good. Yep. And I just to see that and to get that closure helps because it's freeing.
Yeah, it really is. It's such a good feeling. I've been lucky enough to be tattooed by some great artists, and I always get that closure. It's such a nice feeling. And I appreciate the kind words for sure,
dude. And I'm just like this chick. I told him like, I just want a hawk, and I didn't give a fuck what it was or anything. Right. But he persisted on showing me, and I'm like, yeah, cool. He's like, well, here's the stencil. I'm like, cool, bro. Let's fucking do this. I don't even care if it's a hawk for real. You can throw a fucking little African child on me. I'm cool with it.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
I appreciate it. That's awesome. It was awesome to tattoo you. It's funny that when you mentioned me standing up and all that, because sometimes my client will be like, are you good, bro? Like, what do you... Yeah. Or like, I don't know if you see my videos of me doing texture, but it looks like I'm having little seizures. And people are always like, are you okay? Like, is that a chemotherapy side effect? Or
Yeah, and what he was talking about, how I'll like lean back and I squint my eyes. For me, it's I blur shit out. It's the equivalent of walking away 10 feet and looking at it from... but whenever I'm working with a new client, I'm squinting my eyes, like they're immediately wondering what's wrong, and I gotta tell them
exactly.
Or you pull a line, and I'll be like, right. And they'll be like, "You all
been
right?"
Holding your breath,
right? I'm taking that sniper shot, man.
But they think you're already over this,
right? I'm like, nah, trust me, you're good.
Yeah. How do you feel about tribal doors?
Man. Oh, that was his hand that you were talking about. I sent that when you guys were talking about, when you got tattooed by Mr. Savak. And
and it looks just like that today.
Man. Yeah. And because when you look close on that, when you're talking about like the colors just looking like a bunch of fruity pebbles.
Yeah.
But when you zoom in on the fingers, you can see different color tones that most artists wouldn't even pour on their palette, but it worked.
I love this tattoo that's up right now, Winston the Whale.
Dude, so yeah,
Yeah.
this is another artist of mine, and this kind of was inspired by Matt Brianbrenner, because you talk about like a tattoo that you just see and you know who the fuck did it. And
Yeah.
a little fun thing, he was I can't remember how I caught it. I think I was off, but it said he was going live and he was doing like some type of during Corona, like interview or podcast with someone, was kind of walking around and showing off his house, and his house looks just like his fucking tattoos.
That's amazing.
And his tattoos remind me of like being bored in study hall and just doodling. And this
Right.
dude has taken that and made like an insanely fucking amount of clients and fans with it, and his saturation is 100%. His line works are clean as fuck. Like everything this dude does, it's 100% him. There will never be another like it. And just the freedom of like, you know, a couple trad star background mixed with like a fucking, what is that, a lemon catching a rainbow with mushrooms
Yeah.
growing out of it. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. It looks like some Adventure Time shit.
Dude.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. It's impeccable. Like, look at this, how solid, you know, it's like, you can't take that away from him. It's like, that's some solid tattooing.
Man, and he's a big fan of doing like the sprinkles or the different
Yeah.
colored dot work, which
Yeah.
I love.
Especially done well like that. Like, you know, all of the artists that you showed me, Hip, I would 100% be like, I got a cool spot right here. I don't give a fuck what you do. I'll take a bathtub on fire, whatever, you know? So,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just fun to look at. And, you know, when it gets to like, you know, so this is a different turn. He's not a realism artist, or maybe he is. Who knows? He'll probably show up next year fucking.
right. Just drop the bomb.
Right. But when it comes to fundamentals, and like when I think of like tattooing, like this dude is a fucking tattooer.
Yeah, look at the belly of the snake, the rainbows. Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Yep. And then he's always incorporates the color wheel, which is fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the lines on the spider web are so fucking clean.
Man. Then that's fucking one, 2, 3, 4 perfect circles in the eyeball.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy how clean it is. It's just it's almost eerie. You know what I mean? It's like, come on.
Right.
Like the teeth, look at how perfect the teeth are.
And his healed shit, his light colors, his yellows.
You can tell.
And
You can tell it's
oranges
just
will-
flawless,
will
yeah.
Just packed in there, dude. And he lets it breathe. And not only does he let it breathe in the design itself, but he'll, you know, do that hopscotch shit of like the piece that was before, where everything wasn't just one piece. It was just like some hands flying over here and a
Yeah,
twinkle
yeah.
star here.
Yeah. I love it. I'm really fortunate too. He's only 2 hours from me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Got to get him to Evergreen for sure.
Well, this was a nice breakup from all the other picks we've been sharing. You know.
I wonder with someone with a name like that, like whenever someone has an interesting name, I always think like, how would you yell at him? God damn it, Winston the Whale, settle down. You know, like, you know.
And you know, just seeing what I see from his stories, he just started making these rugs that are his artwork.
Really?
Super colorful, shaggy
Oh,
rugs.
that's cool.
He's like
That's really
always like feeding animals. So I don't know if like he's one of those Portlandians that's got like a little urban farm in his backyard.
I think you have to by law to live in Portland.
Right, right. But yeah, I just love his work, and I'll go to his work 2-3 times a week. Just
For
to see-
real?
Yeah, dude.
Holy shit, dude.
It looks like some
You're blowing
tasty
my
shit.
mind right now.
No, I swear, dude. Like it looks like some
get it. I
shit
appreciate it.
you would put on top of ice cream and eat. Like I want to lick all his tattoos.
Wow.
It's like if tattoos were Pop-Tarts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like I do love it. I commend him for the balls as well, just like Brianbrenner. You know what I mean? It's like maybe this is a portrait of someone's grandma. You know what I mean? It's like,
right.
hey, I'll do it my way.
That's
you know?
right. Yep. And
I
he
do love
wrapped
it.
grandma. He took grandma right through his skull.
Fuck
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, great choice. Yeah, I think everybody's choices were awesome. I love that I got to discover somebody new, and I love that I'm reminded of what else is out there. I do tend to get lost in the realism world, so this is nice to kind of be like, wow, because like music, whenever someone's like, Josh, what kind of music do you like? It's like good.
Yeah,
I like good music.
Yeah.
If you do a good tattoo, I love it, man. Like I'm so into tattoos. It's like, and I love folk art, and this is definitely falls into that folkiness. It's just good, man. It's like fucking good. You know, I don't care if you don't like rap music. When you hear a good rap song, come on, you like it. It's good. It's engineered to be that way.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. It's funny you bring up the music analogy because, I respect, like you just said, if it's a good tattoo, it's a good tattoo. You know, I respect it. I think it was earlier episode, Josh, I confessed it took me a couple years to even appreciate traditional.
Same here.
You know. Yeah. Now I fucking love it. And we talked about Mike Chambers and, but in this moment, I felt like you were turning me on to a new band, and I'm like trying to hear it, and I'm like, I ain't feeling this, but maybe it'll grow on me. You know,
it will, man. It's like you have to appreciate it for its originality, even.
Yeah, man.
We've got tattooers from the past. I've always called stuff like this gonzo tattooing. And do you remember the tattoo artist Dave Lum? Way back in the day, there's this tattoo artist named Dave Lum. He was an older guy. He was like a professor turned tattoo artist. You might have seen some of this in old tattoo magazines. He would do tattoos of like big purple dicks. Like on women, and like he did the Last Supper, but it was all frogs, and they had giant dicks, and there was like swastikas made out of dicks. Really weird shit.
Yeah.
But and we're talking the 90s. And he was doing this stuff. The tattoo magazines were filled with him. Yeah, Dave Lum. Look him up because I don't know if he's alive anymore. He was in Oregon before I was even in Oregon, but they always called the style gonzo tattooing. And he did a tattoo of a plate on a guy shaved his head and got a breakfast plate of like ham and eggs. Way before anybody was even considering anything like that,
Love it.
So I would almost guarantee you that Winston the Whale is familiar and influenced by Dave Lum.
Man, right. So cool.
No.
Love it.
Yeah.
Man, dude. Shout out to all these fucking artists.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
Each and every one of them. And the 30,000 we didn't get to talk about.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again.
Oh, yeah. This has got to...
Yeah, I enjoy this. I definitely think that there's something for all of us to learn through all of this. And again, you listeners, who would you like to see? Who are some people? And again, just because you didn't show up on this list doesn't mean anything. Like Hip said, the 30,000. There's so many. Every day I wake up and I'm like, fuck.
Right.
Fuck, look at this guy's work. Holy shit.
Yep.
So let us know who you'd want to see featured as well.
Man, and turn us on, please.
Yeah.
Please,
because
yes.
I need to compare myself more.
Jeez, fuck all that. I was going to say, I'm good. No. That's awesome.
Sometimes Hip and I share a noose.
Man. Jeez.
Matt's got his dreadlocks.
Makes you want... Looking at that, do you guys have a guess what he used?
What do you mean?
I'm definitely thinking rounds as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, rounds.
It's
probably
like
smaller mag.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of rounds, to be honest with you guys, I have never had success with them. Anytime I've tried one to this day, even with kicking out my depth, like when I wasn't able to saturate it. So I thought, well, man, maybe I'll pull my depth in, turn my machine up, let more of a puddle drop, and then other times it's like, oh, should I kick my depth out? But how do you like rocking around? And do you feel like the needles have all got to touch at the same time? Do you go at an angle? Is it kicked out?
Yeah, for me, it's kind of medium, and I still keep it at a 45-degree angle.
Okay.
I use them for small areas, but I don't force them at all. You know what I mean? It's like I spent years trying to do it, and I'm maybe missing some element, and it finally was like, you know what? I can do the same thing with a Magnum. It's working for me.
Yes.
You could never tell the heel difference, so why am I fighting it so much?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Man, it's got my
I will
respect. I just have never had luck whenever I try.
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's hard, man. It's tough. Like, I've got a couple of tattoos that I did, and this is a good example of where I feel like I kind of came close to it. Let's say I did an African portrait, and to me, I don't want to say it looks like Dimitri did it, but I always say, like, if you like Dimitri's work, you probably like this. But I would notice, I would post these pictures, and they always got way less love on Instagram because it wasn't me.
Oh,
you know what I mean? It's like my version of somebody. It's a cover song. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so that was part of that journey as well. It's like I liked it because I could see my idol's hand in it, but no one else really gave a fuck.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, cool. That's not as good as the other one you did because when you were you. Like the bird you posted, that's all me.
Yes.
You know?
Yep. Fuck yeah.
That leaves me feeling like, what's me, or where do I lie? But you know,
well, you're young in the game still, so that's where you should be. You know, you know, you'll find it. It'll happen. Let it happen naturally. You know what I mean? Because you can have success copying somebody else to a degree, but you're never going to feel complete. You're never going to feel whole. You know what I mean? Like Winston the Whale feels whole. You know, he's got it. You know what I mean?
You can tell he's having fun.
Yeah, it's like he's like a Brianbrenner. You know what I mean? He's like, yeah, I'm gonna tattoo you, but it's gonna be a helicopter. You know what I mean? So, you know,
Right.
and I respect that shit out of that because even after all these years, I'm still afraid to say no sometimes. You know what I mean? And it's like my days are so much better. Like tomorrow, I'm so excited. I get to go do a portrait of a high contrast Muhammad Ali portrait. I'm super excited about it. Great reference.
Ooh.
That's what I'm down with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a good day.
Fuck yeah.
sounds fun.
Where on the body is it going? Do you know?
It's going on his leg. He wanted it on his shin, and I talked him out of that because obviously, you know, it's going to be wrapped weird. But he seemed real open. You know what I mean? So yeah.
So good. And this is encouraging again to be reminded of us to focus on our best, truest selves. What's your hint? What you're drawn to? What you know? In that, then there's a market for you. That the people will come to you and find you for you being you. You know, back to the early, what Brenner taught you and I both is you decide who in the fuck you want to be, own that shit, and the people will come to you.
Yeah, and like Hip was saying, that it kind of blows his mind to think that somebody's out there showing off his Instagram. I fucking guarantee you it's happening. It's not a maybe, it's happening for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guarantee you too, the pieces that they're showing are when you showed up and you were like, this is my shit. This is Hip.
Yeah.
That's what they're seeing. People see that stuff. They know it, they feel it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you keep doing that.
Yeah.
Whatever when you're tattooing and you get that feeling, that tingle where like you're like, this is it, that's eventually going to become your thing. It'll happen in the right time. Don't chase it, you know?
Patience.
What's that?
Goddamn patience.
Yeah. And, you know, even if we look at companies and models, not everyone's the CEO. Not everyone's the one seat.
Yeah.
The 17th person at Facebook gets paid more than most CEOs, meaning like even for guys to be like, you know, even if a dude built his whole career off trying to emulate Joshua and got good at that, maybe that is that dude's fucking best. You know,
right? Sure.
Now that's different than trying to be the second best Joshua versus himself.
And that's where my problem was. I was trying so hard to unlock this magic that they were doing that I was trying to become them. You know, what would Dennis Savak do? And that's not how you should be. You know what I mean? Like appreciate it, respect it, steal from some of their ideas, incorporate it. Yeah. But just being a second-rate Brianbrenner, come on. You know what I mean? Like
that's right.
You know.
Yeah, I tried. I didn't pull it off at all.
And Brian would probably be the first to tell you, like, motherfucker, get your own shit.
Yep.
You know,
that's right.
Find your own shit.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely. I like that you brought up a cover band because, again, Brenner being like Mr. Original in style, even early on when I was swinging towards realism, he's the one that even helped open my eyes to. If a dude just replicates a portrait and has no style and doesn't make it his own, then he's just a fucking cover band.
Exactly.
You know,
you have to have that flair. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like you got tattoo artists like Grime. You know, like he'll drop a style for like 3 tattoos, right? But he'll give other tattoo artists an entire career because they'll be like, boop, I'm doing that shit for the rest of and he's on to something else because that's how innovative this guy is. You know, he'll order a pizza, open up the pizza box, on the top of the lid, paint a fucking masterpiece like it's nothing.
Wow.
And like I said, some kid out there is going, I'm going to tattoo like that for the rest of my life.
Yep.
And Grime's like, cool, bite it, bitch, because I'm gone.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yep. That's fucking great. Woo! Are you inspired or discouraged?
A little of both. It's bittersweet.
Yeah, that Nick Noon's guy. Is that the right way to say it?
Nick Noon, yeah.
Man,
Killing
as soon
it.
as I'm done here, as soon as I'm done, I'm going to be up on that Instagram.
Yeah, I was gonna say not sleeping.
I'm gonna be like, hey, Mister. Sometimes I, what are your thoughts on Cheyenne?
How fast do you run your mag?
Yeah. I'm asking for a friend, but is it the donut or the donut hole?
Oh shit!
That's what happens when you put a bunch of prisoners on an island for fucking centuries. They
Man, I'm
become
still so
badass
blown away
tattoo
like,
artists.
I'm still so blown away because like Matt Jordan is so fucking amazing, and then it's just like, oh, everybody in the shop is stupid good. Like that's just fucking crazy. Usually when you have a movie with like too many cooks in the kitchen, like too many amazing actors, it cancels itself out. That shop is a fucking powerhouse, man. Holy shit. You could just go in and roll the dice and just be like, tattoo me.
Yep.
You know?
Man.
Fuck yeah. Man, I don't know if I just had a vision or just want to make the declaration right now, but I think the three of us, four of us with Mike, the Tattoo Guardians, I say and declare we should take a field trip over there.
Ooh, yeah.
And do an episode from Ship Shape with them brothers. Would be fucking real
Let's
cool.
film a little documentary movie on the trip.
Man.
Well, my buddy Needles, who I met at the Evergreen Championship.
Great guy.
Yeah, he is. Sweetheart. Always comments and shows love. I'm a felon, so I can't go to Australia. But he found a loophole where I can get in on a work order.
What
So-
about
Really?
New Zealand? Isn't Ship Shape in New Zealand?
It is, but I don't know if they fall under like the same fucking regime or whatever kind of fucking shit they got down there.
Got you.
Right.
I don't know, but isn't that funny? That's irony because like Australia is basically Australia because England shipped all their prisoners there.
Right.
And now a felon can't even go there.
Wow.
Goddamn
Wow.
Yankee.
Yeah. So, Hip, you were saying that you didn't really know about Dennis Savak and you knew he was right across from Matt. You realized that next to Matt was DBK, right?
No, I did not.
Yeah, you missed that opportunity too.
Yep. I did not. And you want to hear a funny story, and I'm almost embarrassed to say this. So I knew who Matt Jordan was first out of Ship Shape, and me and another guy I was working with and somebody else were in the elevator, and we were going down to the convention, or headed to the convention, because we were all staying at that Holiday Inn there in Eugene. And Matt Jordan and probably DB Kane walked in, and Matt has a heavy fucking, like, good on Mike, but it's like real heavy. And I almost thought that there was like a touch of mental illness there. And my coworker was like, "Who are you?" He's like, "Matt Jordan, mate." And I was like, oh my God, I'm standing next to this motherfucker in here.
And he's special.
Right. And I thought that, and it was just such a heavy accent.
Right.
That, so that's embarrassing for me to admit. So again, shout out to you, Matt Jordan.
Yeah, I can't wait for him to be like, that's funny because when I met you, I thought.
Yeah, I thought you were fucked
He's like,
up
and
too.
I still believe it today. You proved my point. It was cool. It was really cool to watch Matt tattoo because I was lucky enough that he worked in my shop while he was here last, and he's just so effortless. You know what I mean? It's just like it's just so natural for him to tattoo. You can tell, and everything is really oversized.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've looked at his page lately on Instagram, but he's doing hiring models and like dressing them up and recreating scenes. And I mean, it's just nobody. I mean, Guy Atchison did a little bit of that, but we're talking like some Renaissance painting kind of commitment and killing it. So
that chest, it's a torso piece of like the people on the raft.
yeah, the raft of Medusa,
Yeah.
I think is what it's
Love
called. And
it.
there's like 20 people. And there's like dudes laying on the ground that have been stabbed and stuff. It looks like a Renaissance painting, but he fucking built a scene. He built like parts of the ship and dressed them up. And it's fucking amazing. And like, it just makes me excited. Like,
Yes.
fuck, I love tattooing. I fucking love tattooing. You know, and it's guys like Matt Jordan and like these people that are leading the way on this stuff that make it so fucking exciting. So You know?
Yes.
So I'm getting all geeked out, but I just love tattooing.
Thank you. It's shit like that relights all of our fires.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. We're in such a renaissance. I mean, some of the best artists in the world are tattooing, man. It's crazy. You know, like I was lucky enough that I had my hand in helping David Gluck learn how to tattoo. He's an amazing tattooer who has paintings in galleries all around the world, and he's tattooing now. We're lucky we have him.
Yeah.
You know
And
what I
he's
mean?
funny.
And he's hilarious. Yeah. He's a great guy. Even though he's Canadian, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
Smells like bacon. But, or I guess maple syrup, I guess, right?
Maple syrup bacon
Yeah.
Right.
and hockey
But
pucks.
we're lucky that we have these artists that they're really artists at heart. They teach art, you know what I mean? And they learned to tattoo properly. And I just think that we're in such a renaissance with, you know, again, to keep bringing up Matt Jordan, but he's such a forward thinker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you know, it reminds me of Brianbrenner. It reminds me of St. Mark. It reminds me of these people who came before us that were just dropping bombs and leading the way and lighting the path. And I can't wait to just meet the next one, you know?
Man, come on. Wow. So beautiful. So
I feel like I just came up with a good hardcore band name, Light the Path.
Hello, Cleveland.
Right.
Shit, fellas, you guys lit me up. I might start
Fuck yeah.
tattooing again.
Right. Matt's down to one every 3 months now.
Right. It's funny. Matt got an Apple Watch, I hear, and one of the things you're going to enjoy is you'll be tattooing, you'll be sitting all day, and your Apple Watch will be like, it'll nudge you and it'll be like, hey dog, you should probably stand up. It's been a while, and you're like, motherfucker, I'm tattooing. You know?
Wow. Wow.
I love those little reminders, though.
Someone was saying today it's got a reminder on it to tell you to breathe.
Yep.
It does. Yeah, you know, you can turn these things off, but it's, you know, obviously not to just breathe, but to breathe deeply, to breathe correctly. It kind of teaches you how to breathe. And to kind of like, I'll do it before I do my blood pressure tests.
Okay.
It can dramatically lower your blood pressure. You know what I mean? And your watch even tells you, like, even once a day, it really does help.
Man.
You know, it kind of recenters. For me, it kind of recenters me. So I leave all those reminders on.
I'll be
actually wish they were
curious.
mean. I wish they were mean. I wish they were like, listen, fat ass.
Have David Goggins or fucking Samuel L. Jackson.
I would pay so much to have David Goggins yell at me through my watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you taking souls, motherfucker?
Man, that would be great. Shit. Yeah, when I tattoo, a lot of times when I'm concentrating, I hold my breath until I almost get lightheaded and be like, and then I'll start breathing. That's another one of those moments when the client's like, you okay? I'm like, oh, yeah, I just forgot to breathe. So I'm curious how many times that watch will be like, yo, motherfucker, just breathe anything.
Yeah.
It's called oxygen, you know?
Yeah. Look it up. Figure it out.
Right. Jeez. Very cool. Man, it's good kicking with you brothers tonight.
Yeah. It's good to see you.
Yeah. Thanks for your guys' selections. What you contributed tonight is beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate it. And what a great idea, Josh. We got to do this more often for sure.
For sure, yeah. Let us know if you listeners like this, but even if not, we're doing it anyway. It's pretty cool. Yeah. But yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you, brother Josh. Thank you, Hip.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks all our viewers and listeners. And like Josh has mentioned already, your feedback is real important to us.
Until next time.